is permission to pick your leaders. You heard me right. The IRS just made it completely legal for churches to endorse political candidates. This is a form of ideological gerrymandering, and we're going to talk about it this morning because is this the end of church and state, the separation of church and state? What do you think about it? Let's have this conversation. Come take a ride with me. It's the Morning Commute with Avi Penhallow. You're watching the Proximity Portal. All right, so what just happened? So we just found out that something that's been in the works for a long time, Trump has been talking about it for a long time, and that is churches have previously, as nonprofits, been unable to specifically endorse a political candidate. Now, we know that churches have been endorsing political candidates for a long time with the wink-wink method. You know, every head bowed, every eye closed. Is anybody in here going to vote for Obama? Anybody in here going to vote for the candidate that is of Satan? You know what I'm talking about. But now, churches have the legal right, without losing their 501c3 nonprofit tax status or exempt status, explicitly, the IRS said they can do that now. And what does that mean? In some senses, it doesn't change anything because we already know that the evangelical white Christian nationalist movement pretty much got the current regime in office. Now, my point in addressing this morning, though, is not necessarily to talk about right versus left, but it is to talk about issues like the separation of church and state. Now, for full disclosure, I'm a bishop in a Christian church who is very much a proponent for the separation of church and state. Yet, I am also a firm believer that it was the churches and religious movements that largely fueled things like civil rights, women's suffrage, all of those other things. And these are important aspects of spiritually minded people and organizations being involved in social change. So that does seem like an apparent contradiction, but there's something else here that, and we'll come back to what I just said, but there's something else here that should alarm everybody, whether you're religious or not. And that is this: churches have been given the right to explicitly endorse political candidates from the pulpit, from wherever their platforms are, without losing their tax-exempt status. Clearly, this is something that Donald Trump and other people on the MAGA side have wanted for a long time. They want a Christian nationalist country. They want a nation based on white Christian nationalism. And there are, of course, a few other people that will join them that don't fit that definition, and that's a discussion for another time. But here's the thing. Here's the real thing. 501c3 tax status makes it so that an organization is tax exempt. Churches are not the only organizations that fit that bill. Many nonprofits fit that bill as well. And guess what? They are not allowed to endorse political candidates under the most recent ruling. You heard that right. So the IRS just stated that churches with a 501c3 tax exempt status can endorse political candidates, but any other organization that's a nonprofit cannot. Now think about that for a minute. Think about the strategy behind it. Think about the partisanship behind it. And that's why I'm calling this ideological gerrymandering by the MAGA movement. And it's completely unacceptable whether you're a conservative or a liberal. It's unacceptable because why would you provide tax-exempt status and allowing to endorse political candidate if you're a church, but say not, I don't know, a non-religious related soup kitchen or a non-religious related public service charity? That is where the clear political motivation here is involved that fits the white evangelical Christian nationalist narrative. And if you don't think that's the case, you're not even trying to be objective. And I understand that's a problem for some people. Now, I'm not trying to be objective here either. As I mentioned before, I fully support the involvement of religious institutions in the social fabric of our life. I think that there's a false dichotomy when we say the separation of church and state. We're saying that the state cannot endorse a particular religion and that there should be freedom of religion or non-religion at all in our state governments and in our federal governments. That part's been clear since the beginning of the Constitution, even riddled with its own inherent contradictions. So I'm not saying that I believe in separation of church from state, meaning that churches and religious institutions can't participate in social issues, charity, and even political issues that have direct relationships with social problems. And it's not the issue for me personally. I want to hear what you guys think about this, because this is a discussion that needs to be had. It's about to get picked up by the media today. Should churches have tax-exempt status and be able to endorse political candidates openly now, but other nonprofits under the same tax-exempt status are not? That should be the debate that we're having right now. I think even more important than, well, maybe not, the Epstein list. I don't know. Sorry, I'm shaking, but this is how I do things in the morning. We're on a commute together, and I want to know what you guys think about that. So those are my two first thoughts. How did this come into play in the first place? So the 501c3 status is the tax-exempt status for nonprofits and churches. This goes all the way back to President Johnson, who did not want churches to be able to run candidates against him. I mean, that's basically the idea behind it. But it's also fundamental to the understanding of many people that there should be separation of church and state. Churches should not be endorsing political candidates, running political events, and all that kind of thing. But we know that they do. So that has been in place, I think, since the 1950s. And here we are now in 2025, and a complete reversal of that. Now, it would be okay if the conversation was about nonprofits being able to be directly involved with endorsing political candidates, including churches and other nonprofits. But that's not what they're doing. That is not what MAGA is doing here. And we know that the end game here is to control the election results. And I think that it's something that we all need to push back on. And as somebody who is a spiritual leader, someone who does have 501c3 tax-exempt status for ministry. I don't make any money off ministry, by the way. I work full-time. But as somebody who, is in the pulpit and is in the public space as a religious figure with a 501c3 status, I oppose this. I oppose the IRS distinguishing between a church and another nonprofit when it comes to endorsing political candidates. I'm very interested to hear what you all have to say about it. So drop a comment. Please like and subscribe to the Proximity Portal. Also, we have a brand new Substack that's really pushing out a lot of this content. We deal with these issues straight on. We're not trying to do clickbait and all that other kind of stuff. We are trying to be clearly focused. Yes, we are mostly the contributors to the Proximity Portal, come from different faith traditions and spiritual backgrounds, but we're trying to address issues like this at the crossroads of church and state and many other issues like that. So if you want to support our work, please do so. You can do that by liking and subscribing to this channel, and you can also do that by coming on over to our Substack, which is pretty easy to find, proximityportal.com. Let us know what you think. This is Avi Penhollow, and that was my thought this morning. Thanks for joining me on my commute. You guys have a great day.